Oh, it's a very British day today. So if you were watching, if you've seen my previous one, you'll have seen that this morning I was on a street twin, and now I'm on the street triple. Really, really fun, but a massive contrast. So just so you're aware, I'm not necessarily coming at this from a completely neutral background. What we have then is a 2015 street triple. It's not the R version, it is not the sportier of the two, it is your bog standard 2015 street triple. It's also not even the newest version of it, obviously. It's just what they gave me. Now then, what have we got for looks? Well, we're missing the front cowl. I actually prefer the front cowl, if I'm perfectly honest. I think it makes it look a little bit less discombobulated, a little bit less buggy. Obviously neatens up the front end there. Doesn't offer anything for wind protection, just looks quite nice. Ignoring that though, we've got the white version, obviously, and we've got a little bit of red tape on the wheels. Very nice. Offsets the white. Matches quite nicely. Let's talk about performance then. So what we're looking at is a 675cc motor. It is an inline triple. And because it is an inline triple, it has a lot of torque everywhere. It's fantastic. What we're dealing with is really a completely linear torque curve. Practically completely linear. It's very, very level, very predictable. It means that whenever you twist the throttle, you've got lots and lots of torque, oodles of torque to play with. Actually, for 50 foot-pounds of torque at peak. I believe that's about 9,500 revs. And then for horsepower, they've teased out a few more over the years, so it's now 106 brake horsepower, I believe. It's the 2015. I think the 2016 might be a smidge more, but not by a huge amount. As far as comparisons go, it is a middleweight naked. You wouldn't be far off comparing it to things like a Ducati Monster. Obviously the Yamaha range massively. The MT-09 is a good one to compare it to. The XSR 900 is also not a bad one to compare it to, but they are aimed at different markets, really. They're slightly different. But as far as performance goes, obviously a triple makes them kind of a common link between them there, at least. Big difference being that the sound on the street triple is a lot nicer. I love the XSR 900, don't get me wrong, but the exhaust note on the street triple is just a lot nicer. The XSR 900, in case you're not familiar, I don't even think I mentioned this on the test itself, but it sounds like a sewing machine. Now if you take that and compare it to the Triumph here, street triple, then this one sounds like a really attractive, aggressive vuvuzela, if you can picture such a thing. I know, it's quite abstract, but it's got a really nice note to it, quite raspy as well if you're throttling off, very encouraging, and as we all know, the noisy bit is part of the fun, and I'm a big fan of a twin. I have to say, I think twins, you can't really beat them for sound, but it comes close to it with a triple, and it's very encouraging if you just hold on. It makes you want to go a little bit faster, which also makes you feel like you are going faster. As far as other equipment goes, we have the brakes. Actually, do you know what? The brakes are the one thing I would say, they're not budget, but they aren't premium either. I don't know whether, I can't remember now if you can get it on the R. But as far as brakes go on the front, you've got 2-piston Nissan calipers, which aren't industry leading, really. And if you compare it to its rivals like the Monster goes for Brembos, and Brembos are better in a nutshell. And more pistons are better than less pistons. So really, even though it is a 308mm disc, a floating disc, and the actual disc itself, the surface area is not too bad, but the pads aren't quite as good as you could expect from some other manufacturers. It's not monoblock either, sadly. On the back we got 1-piston Brembo. It is a Brembo, but it's again 1 piston, not 2 pistons, so it's not quite as much braking power as you'd expect from other bikes. But then it's a really light bike, so it's not a massive problem, to be fair. They're just not quite top of the range, so a little bit of cost cut there. But then it is quite a cheap bike. It's only about 7,500, I think, at the moment. So it's got to save some money somewhere on there. You still get braided hoses and plenty of feel through the levers themselves anyway, so it's not a huge problem, but something I would pick up on anyway. As far as suspension goes, we haven't got the R version, so it hasn't got the fully adjustable suspension, sadly. We've just got Kayaba front forks and a Kayaba monoshock on the back, and that's adjustable for preload. The front, not really adjustable, so pretty basic. Frame's nice, all the rest of the ergonomics are nice, it fits you nicely, you've got plenty of leg room, doesn't really necessarily ache too much. See a lot of people use these in a town and there's a reason for it. They've actually improved first and second gear, so it's nice and usable in town. It's not you have to change gear all the time when you're setting up for lights or going slowly, so that's quite nice. But also the ergonomics do lend themselves to it whilst being still quite sporty. So you've got, I think it's relatively high bars, but they're flat anyway, so they feel a little bit lower on. And you've got an 800mm seat height, which is quite nice. The XSR 900, just to compare it to that again very briefly, is 830mm I think, which is actually quite close to a Triumph Tiger. More of a touring sort of setup as far as legroom goes. This is 800mm, and being as I'm 5'10" and a half, I would say I've got plenty of legroom. It's nicely sized and proportioned for someone of my size and proportions. Weight-wise, 167 kilograms. Dry. Super light, super nimble, even more nimble than the Street Twin. I think your exhaust blower, mate. Switch gear, really basic, nothing much to it. Kill switch, starter, mirrors are fine on this. Oh, I've got the indicators on, that's good, isn't it? Stop. We have our clock down there and all these dials obviously. Sorry, these buttons change the trip and lap, so you can time yourself. Yeah. Set up. Oh, and you can also adjust, I was told, this little thing on the top there that you can't really see. I'll start it up again so you can, because this only showed me. There we go. Cute little blue light. So the blue light is there to show you when to change gear, and you can adjust that actually, so you can dictate when it tells you to change gear. It's a bit gimmicky, you're not really going to be looking down there, hopefully not anyway. Ideally you want to be looking at the road and where you're going. Rev gauge, so 13 I guess, red line, 11,000 for peak horsepower. And I'll tell you how it feels at peak. Got lights on this side, pass light on the top there obviously, indicators and horn. Nice and basic. So if you're going to pick up something else as well, it hasn't got any rider modes. Bit of a shame. A lot of people like rider modes. Personally, they confuse the hell out of me. So I quite like the fact that it has one rider mode, and it works really well. Basically, you turn the key and the engine turns on, and from that point on, everything is set up to a degree where you can use it for practically anything. It's a very versatile bike. So I wouldn't really be too fussed about losing the rider modes, but again, you lose a little bit of the cost there, so they save a bit of money, but you lose some electronic trickery that you would get with some other bikes. Oh yeah, baby. Now I want you to see something. The fucking massacre that has happened on the front of my phone. That's sacrifice, that is. Can fly genocide. They all gave their lives willingly. I mean, they flew into me, not the other way around. Mainly because I wasn't flying, but oh, was I? I was going some pace. Ha ha ha! Right then, completely different. I mean, I'm going for contrast today, aren't I? Street twin, street triple. Okay, gearing, first gear quite high, second gear also quite high. Hopefully you can hear the noise. Let's go with the engine to begin with and tell you that obviously it's a fast torquey little thing. Oh, it's so well built, so smooth, it's not fighting itself either. I guess because of the synchronisation on the crankshaft. Your riding position's nice, you're up, your knees are sort of tight to it. Sporty, but not as sporty as the S2. The bars aren't nearly as wide, sort of pushing your arms out, which is good. Well, I don't know, it's good for me. Depends if you prefer that. As I say, so light for a liquid-cooled engine. Bit of a cliff face on the front, you are pushed forward, but then I should expect that because obviously I've ridden a Street Twin today. And you can't get much more relaxed, can you? This thing's higher by 50mm,
throws you forward. It feels like it's pushing you forward, and it feels like there is nothing there if you crash. Not that there is anything there to crash, it's not like it's got a crumple zone on any bike. But you feel like you're shooting forward, head first. Beautiful. Drops in nicely. Weighted well. Very centered. It doesn't feel as low down as far as weight goes as the S2. Nice high ground clearance as well, so you can drop in tightly. What else we got going on? I'll tell you the best thing about this bike and the characteristics of a triple. When you play with a 4-cylinder, all of what you want is up high. And it's especially noticeable if you're in, say, second gear. On mine in particular, if I hold on to first for too long, it doesn't like going into second and it will jump out. So I can't, I have to change up faster. Which means that I'm hitting second gear at 4,000 revs maybe, where it's not making all of its power and torque. So it's frustrating until you get up into that rev range, at which point you're doing 80 miles an hour. So you haven't got much further to go on domestic roads. In fact, you haven't got anywhere to go on domestic roads. Whereas with a twin, V-twin or otherwise, they're torquey, slow down, it's great fun, instantly rewarding. You twist the throttle and it's got plenty to give you. Great for town, and great if you're going to keep jumping up the gears. But no, well, I wouldn't say no top end, but less top end. Depends how it's been set up. You definitely have less than the top end on a twin. Then enter the triple. Everything you want, wherever you want it. And it is nearly time to turn back and do the whole thing again. And I am very much looking forward to it. Here we go. Wow. It's a hero maker. This engine is so good. Now when I asked my brother and my dad why they like the Ducati S2 so much, and they say that it's because when you're on these types of roads, it doesn't matter what mood you're in or how skillful you are, it does so much of the work for you, partially because of the power delivery and where it's placed and the weight and how in control you can feel of it. As far as frame goes and ride position, this is very similar to the Ducati Monster. As far as the engine goes and making you feel like a hero, the bike does all the work for you, and it just makes you feel like you've done a lot better than you have. It's rewarding. You'll climb off with a big smile on your face. Beautiful. The exhaust sounds gorgeous. This thing's stock and it sounds that good. See, at 4,000 revs now, and I know if I twist that throttle, it's going to shoot into the back of a Volkswagen. But if I turn, I'll go around the Volkswagen, and then when I go around the Volkswagen, I'll rocket off into the stratosphere. It's so nice, so nimble, so composed. It's still, I mean, I got used to it actually. I am used to it now, the fact that I'm perched on the front and it sort of throws you over the handlebars. And I mean, for the moment when I first sat on it, at least, I was inching back. You feel like you're on Alton Towers Air. Now there is a complaint often that when a bike does everything, it becomes boring. You look at a bike and you go, it does everything alright, it doesn't really excel massively in any one particular field. It beats the competition, but it does it so competently it loses character, and you sort of go, well, I want character and performance. I think this captures character and performance beautifully, lovely balance between the two, because you've got very unique looks, love them or hate them. They're a bit polarising, some people will love those, but at least it looks identifiable. I mean, you know when you've seen one, you know it's a Triumph, and it's either a street or a speed if it's going past you quickly. It's just really well made, really solidly put together, really quick, really enjoyable, but not bland. You'd have a great time, and I can see why consistently it wins awards. And I really wanted to get on this thing for a few different reasons. I wanted to expand my horizons and see other bikes. But I also wanted to see what the fuss was about and why it wins all these awards all the time. I wanted to see why people who own them love them and cannot recommend them highly enough. The only difficulty is I'm trying to pick a flaw and I honestly can't think of one. Good, so what's my verdict on it? It's as good as everyone says it is. And do you know what? If we're looking at benchmark bikes, sorry, cover the camera. If we're looking at benchmark bikes and you're looking to get a fully rounded knowledge of bikes, it's like with cars. There's certain cars that if you consider yourself a fan of cars, you need to have driven. And you need to say you know what they feel like, because they are benchmark and people will constantly reference things against them. So if you're looking for benchmark bikes, if you're a bike lover, then you really need to get yourself a go on one of these, because it's a fantastic piece of kit and a very versatile tool, not to be overlooked at all. The only shame now is that I need to go and give it back to the dealership and see if I've got £7,500 kicking about, because I really, really want one of these things. Hammer. Testing. Unique New York. The Human Torch was denied. The ride position is on the sporty side, the suspension is on the stiff side. There's a grouse on the road side. Hello. That wasn't a grouse, that was a pheasant.